I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll just start. Walked right in to the studio. Had to walk outside to get to the little studio I got, little office, so my wife can't hear me yelling at the Eagles at midnight. Carried the remote control all the way over here. That's how flustered I am. Just walked right out the door with the remote control. Like, ball game ended. Jalen Hurts threw a damn pick. Walked right out the door. TV's still on. I don't know where to start. Yeah, I lost the bet tonight for sure. But I'm also just really disappointed. I'm disappointed in the way the Eagles came out. I mean, you're talking about tonight, you got Kelsey in the South Philly tuxedo. He's back in town. It's Monday Night Football. Nick Foles is back in town. All that pageantry. And you blow it. And this would have been a game that would have been great to get on the Cowboys in the NFC East. The way the Cowboys looked yesterday, you're supposed to show up and stomp out Kirk Cousins in prime time. Like, it's literally what you do. But maybe it's not what this group does, not on defense. We'll talk about that in a minute. I mean, I'll start with the way the game ends. Like, I cannot believe. And honestly, it's Scott Van Pelt's fault. It really is. It just hit me. It's his fault.
Because of his Maryland shot at you?
Well, the Maryland thing, you got after me this week about Maryland, so he's on the top of my mind. But then they're coming out of commercial. It's second down in the red zone, and he's like, we'll be joined by somebody from the winning team, and it looks like it's going to be the Eagles. And I almost stood up like Leo and was like, hey, motherfucker, enough from you this week. Jinxing my Eagles. And he did it. He jinxed them because, say what you want to say about the call. It's kind of akin to Shane Steichen putting the ball in the air with Gardner Minshew. It's actually not even close because this is a quarterback who we say is an MVP, and it's a running back who we say is an MVP candidate. Like, that's how good the year is going to be. And it's pitch and catch. It's the right call. He catches the ball. He goes down in bounds. They get the first down. It's over. I don't cover. I don't care. Because every bet tied to the Eagles winning, and just the Eagles needed this damn game. Okay, let me talk like an analyst for a second. Come on. Like, you got a chance to put this game away. Saquon is thinking about it probably more than anybody. Like, listen, he's the guy with the cachet to make a mistake like that. He's the one guy who you can depend on so far this season, most consistently. Jalen Hurts, I'm getting ready to chalk up the really shaky, slow start to, adjustment without A.J. Brown. I thought he played one of his better games throughout the whole game. And lately, that's not saying much, right? Because he hasn't played great down the stretch last year. And to open the season, I thought he had some bad moments. But when he started tucking the ball and running, when he started actually finding things to do with the ball rolling right, early in the game, there was a point where he was like, I saw Benjamin Solak was online, and he was like, hey, this is a design deal where they're inviting Hurts to roll right. I don't necessarily think that's true. I mean, he showed me two plays. One of them's an ET. I think maybe the first one's a mental error, where you don't have the 3 technique in a 5-man front, looping out to contain when he's got the dropper. And then the second one he showed is an ET. It's an end first tackle wrap game. And Jalen's rolling right, and he's not doing much with the ball. And we said coming in this game, it's like nothing good happens rolling right for him. It just made me nervous, especially early in the game. A lot of these balls were like tight coverage, forced in there. And I said, here we go. We're going to have another one. That first drive, they get down in the end in the red zone, and Saquon's running roughshod over these guys. You got Lane and Landon putting people on SEPTA, pick them up, drop them off 8 yards down the field, and Saquon needs a breather, taps the hat. Kenny Gainwell comes in, and I feel like I have to go back. I don't love the looks they're running into. Early in the drive, they're motioning, they're bumping backers, they're running into light boxes. They get down in the red zone, it's like they're timid to give Jalen the ball and allow him to make a play until third down, right? It's first down run, Kenny Gainwell. Second down run, Kenny Gainwell. Well, Saquon's on the sideline. So you get to third down, and he's rolling left. And here's all I'm saying. I think with Grady Jarrett running towards the pylon, you got a chance to pick that up, especially if it's 4-down territory. That's the thing I didn't know. If it's 4-down territory, maybe run it one more time or tuck it and run in that situation, but not the force. And then 4th down, I don't like it either. And so, I don't love the calls. I don't love the strategy. And they come away with nothing on that drive, and it ends up killing them. They were sloppy. They had penalties earlier. They had, I think 7, 8 now. Illegal man downfield penalties on RPOs. Well, guess what? You got to get the RPO game going. Your best player is out of the game, A.J. Brown. So you've got to get the ball in the perimeter quick and that sort of thing. And I thought, Atlanta actually called a pretty good game defensively. But there's no good call for a team that can run the ball down your throat. And for at least two drives, Philly looked like Philly. Like the way they iced that game. And I'll say this. Every time they got in the red zone, there was a penalty. Even on the good drives, they overcame penalties. Jalen, when he started to tuck the ball and run, he started to play better. He started to roll right. He started to make things happen when he rolled right. He started to move around in the pocket, extending plays, that sort of thing. But when they got in the red zone, he had to bail him out with his legs because there's a penalty.
9 for 53 on the game, 9 penalties, 53 yards.
Yeah, it was bad. If you look at where they were in tough spots. They killed the first drive with an illegal man downfield. There were red zone penalties. It just and again, going back to that red zone trip where if you're gonna go, it's 4-down territory early in the game. Why is there a piano on his back? That's not the same guy I saw running with the football in the second quarter and beyond. I want to see him tuck that and run it. I'm bouncing around here, but it's just like stream of consciousness. The whole damn game's running through my head. And I'm like, there's so many opportunities for the offense to put that team away. We'll get to the defense. But it's frustrating because, yeah, you could say he played one of his best games, but the points are not on the scoreboard to where this, you can make Atlanta one-dimensional. And then I don't know what happens. Well, we found out what happens when they're one-dimensional at the end of the game. I guess it's better we didn't find that out earlier. Actually, masterful by the Eagles leaving Atlanta in the game so that Kirk didn't get into the 2 minutes sooner, because that looked like it was Swiss cheese, man. They just got shredded. It was crazy. It was crazy. I don't know where to go with this. There's so many ways you could have won that game. Not to mention on the last possession there, it starts with a penalty. They're in the end zone probably. They get a hold, Dickerson, to start the thing out. 9-yard run, Saquon Barkley. Like we're icing this game. Or it's 1st and goal. You're 10 yards closer, and all these little things add up. So when you don't come to play, from a detail standpoint offensively, and you don't have your number one wide receiver, and guys like Saquon are taking a turn. Devontae Smith, who is the most dependable guy on the damn team, you'd like to think he'd come up with that ball in the end zone, right? But Bates makes a great play. He gets paid too. Overall, though, when you don't have A.J. Brown and you're missing some guys and you have to step up, you can't play shitty, undisciplined football, especially when the defense isn't helping you out at all. Okay? So really sloppy. Like Saquon, right down to the 60th minute of the ball game is the hero. And then he takes a turn. You know what I'm saying? And again, I would full circle here. I don't care that they did not run the ball. Listen, it'd probably be better from a standpoint of, hey, they'd have less time to go if you don't. But I can't argue with the call because it's there. Just make the catch. Yes, run the damn ball, but if you're not going to, make sure it's the right call, and it was. And you got your MVP quarterback throwing it to your MVP running back, or at least that's what people say. They point back to that year with Jalen, and they say he's an MVP. Well, listen, it's totally unfair to Jalen that he had to go out there one more time and try to win his team that game. But in that circumstance, greatness is demanded. Where you're trying to go, greatness is demanded. He knows that. And with a timeout to go, within striking distance of Jake Elliott's range, which is like this fucking office chair in Central Virginia, just throw it away. Live to fight another day. You got Caden Ellis bearing down on you. They're running a game inside, and he doesn't do it, and it's a bad decision. And there were a lot of decisions that I thought he might have gotten away with during the game, but all in all, if Saquon catches this ball, we're not even talking about that because we didn't stress him to the point where he had to engineer a drive. They were very conservative. They were methodical, and that's all the moment demanded. But you have to cash in the red zone early, and you have to cash in the red zone in general if you're missing guys and you're playing a team like Atlanta that's going to possess the football. And possessions were at a premium. There were barely any possessions in the second half of the football game until the end. There's like 5 possessions in 2 minutes. I'm losing my mind. Scott Van Pelt's jinxing us. I'm thinking like, hey, let's get this win. Then I'm thinking like, oh, let's get this cover because this is the one way we're going to cover here. Saquon dropped the ball. Defense, let's do it. Somebody be the guy. There were moments in this game where somebody was the guy. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was the guy on 4th and 1. He said, I'll be the guy. But when you come out of commercial at the end of the game and the link is hopping, one of these rushers has to get home. It should be a finable offense coming out of a commercial on 3rd down at the link, waiting for 2 minutes, looking at that offensive line getting water. They're looking at you. It's fucking go time. I'm sitting on the couch. My hairs are standing on end. I'm like, it's Monday night. And nobody found a way to win a damn rush. For most of the game, listen, last week I said they're going to be okay. Yeah, it was the grass in Brazil. Huff's going to be fine. And listen, they all might be fine. But rush is one thing that, like, it can be apparent. You can take rushers away. That's what New Orleans did yesterday. They took those rushers away. They jammed the ball down their throat with the run game. They went to play action. And then eventually these guys are spinning like a top and they're in 4-minute mode. And they don't know where to get some traction and find a one-on-one. But this was a game where there were one-on-ones. This game was in phase. Atlanta was getting people out in the routes. I mean, and I think one of the biggest problems early is this team did not have a great plan in the run game, right? Like Bijan's gashing them, so all of a sudden play action's a problem. And fucking Trojan horse Kirk Cousins, huh? All he can do is be in the pistol. I'm thinking, I almost want my money back. I'm staring at that number and I'm saying, did anybody see him moving around last week? There's no way. Vegas. Fucking playing possum. Now, he didn't look like Michael Vick tonight, but I'll tell you what, he gutted it out. He looked better as the game went on, and there was no pass rush. So, like, I don't know where to go on this thing defensively. Let me try to start somewhere, the pass rush. Okay, I'm already here. But when you got the link, full atmosphere like that, you got to be running around like you're on speed. You got to be running around like your hair is on fire. You got to be running around like C.J. Gardner-Johnson on 4th and 1. That's the intensity you have to play with. And I'm not boiling all pass rush down to intensity. I'm not sure if Bryce Huff feels out of place or, he's having trouble gaining traction in the system. He's got to win, right? Jalen Carter's got to win. That's my guy, dude. I love Jalen Carter. Just because Chris Lindstrom's on the Falcons, we got to find a way to beat him. We got to find a way to win one-on-ones. That's the problem. They have a good guy or two on their offensive line that can take care of maybe some of your best guys, and the one-on-ones aren't getting won. The only guy I saw win a one-on-one was Milton Williams. He beat Chris Lindstrom in the red zone. And when it's play-action pass, which it was for most of the first half, that's excusable to a degree, but when they keep hitting you with it over the head, you got to do your part. Somebody's got to get hands on somebody's chest and yank that son of a bitch down and put hands on their back and transition into a pass rush. I had a coach in the NFL who said, and this really resonated with me, I think it might resonate especially to people that went to large schools, large high schools, maybe public schools, where there might be a lot of fights. He used to say, man, when it's play action pass, I need to see you like two hoes fighting in the cafeteria. I need to see you getting hands on. I need to see, yeah. It's like you got to get busy with your hands, man. You got to start throwing punches. You got to start chopping arms. You got to start, but you have to convert. And play action is a place that great rushers and students of the game find ways to be effective. They find ways on first and second down to create negatives by reading keys, by watching film, and by repping that thing a million times. So when it goes off in your head, like, hey, this set doesn't feel right, a millisecond in, oh, this isn't a reach block. This isn't a base block. Let me transition. And I thought for most of the first half, that might be what it was. I thought in Brazil, it might be the grass. But I'm starting to worry that they need to go kick the tires on somebody that can rush the passer. You know what I'm saying? And so as the game went on, coming out of the half, the one thing I noticed is like Kirk in the first half did not look like he could drive the ball outside the numbers. And I said, make them beat you, challenge them. They did challenge them. They zeroed up, and Mooney beat them. Somersaults in the end zone. And just when you think the game's over, before the Eagles do that thing down in the red zone with 2 minutes to go, and Scott Van Pelt jinxed us all, Mooney almost killed him. You know, they got a little pressure. Kirk chucks it deep. Mooney runs it. Maddox runs into Mitchell. They get shaken up, but Mooney, for some reason, kind of stops on the route. Like they could have been beat there, too. So the coverage wasn't great. And the rush primarily wasn't great. Those guys in the back end, got to be fair. Slay's got to be better down the goal line. Like his eyes are in the backfield. But why are you even down there? That's some Madden shit. That's some video game shit. 4 chunk plays. You go the length of the field. I can remember when being at the link meant the quarterback was going to be picking his fucking teeth up out of the grass at the end of the day. I sound old, but I remember watching this group last year, the year before, and it's slowly kind of tapered off where now somebody's got to step up and win, man. It's early in the season. This isn't the end of the world. They got beat by a team that a lot of people think are pretty good. I think they got a lot to prove still. I think part of it is proving that, you know, Kirk Cousins is healthy, right? You could make an argument that Ray McLeod should have been out of the game when he punched C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's a tremendous agitator, in the mouth, basically, through the face mask. I had somebody tell me, and I don't like to do a lot of complaining about calls, but I did bet this game, so indulge me for a second. I mean, that's a punch, right? I get it. CJ, slick little pull of the mouthpiece, but nobody's throwing a flag because you pull it on a guy's mouthpiece. Like, they might think you're fucking around. McLeod wasn't fucking around. Bah, right in the jaw. And, it's in the face mask. I had a guy tell me that wasn't a punch. That was just a closed fist push in the mask. I was like, my brother, that's a punch. You just defined a punch. He should probably be out of the game. And I know what you're thinking. What about last night? Well, I covered this in the podcast today. Al Shirer's in a crowd of people. I don't even think they saw that in the melee. Plus, it was like such a fast, like Bruce Lee kind of thing. Either way, they still have Ray McLeod, who killed him over the middle of the field whenever they went zone and Kirk had time in the first half. In the second half, I mean, they're doing this with Drake London, Ray McLeod, the threat of Kyle Pitts, and Mooney. Mooney had a big game for them. You know, late in that game, when they're going too high, Troy Aikman pointed out they're killing them into the boundary. And, I just rushed coverage. The defense did look pedestrian today. I mean, all told, if you're on defense, I think it's kind of unfair for you to take all the blame, right? Because you held that team down. You know, like you kept the points down. If you'd have told me Atlanta was going to score 22 points or whatever it was, I'd have said, we're going to win that game. I thought this thing's 27-17, Philly kind of thing. And you know what the messed up part about it is? You could have transitioned to pass rush not even one little bit. You could have given him all day because that's what it was. You still should have won by 2 touchdowns. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? But I'm looking at this game, and Philly had every opportunity to put this team away, and they just let them hang around. Let them hang around. And at the end of the game, you got Jason Kelsey sitting there in his velour jumpsuit at the set, and he's got to analyze that. Nick Foles leaving the stadium in traffic, retiring an Eagle. This is his night. It's the Eagles' night. Like the whole thing. It's just, I don't know. When people used to come around that stadium, and I didn't even play there long, I used to want to run through a wall. You know what I'm saying? And I know you can't just turn it on. You can't just be like, oh, it's Nick Foles' night. It's Monday Night Football. But you got to have a little urgency about you when that game started. I thought the team in general was flat. They played flat to me. And the execution early was evidence of that offensively. And defensively, the rushers, I know all of a sudden, I know how hard it is to win rushes in the NFL. I spent most of my career failing. That's what rushers do. They spend most of their career getting blocked. You spend most of the game scratching and clawing, trying to win, getting this close. I know it's hard to win rushes, but they're not even getting close. You know what I'm saying? And that's disappointing because these guys are talented. You take all the individuals in that group, and I would say, hey, you're all pretty damn talented. Josh Sweat's a guy who's talented. Josh Sweat has won a lot of rushes in the NFL. Brandon Graham's 36, but he knows how to play, right? He's won some rushes. Jalen Carter, to me, should be unblockable. He wasn't tonight. And that's hard for me to say because I love the guy. And I got to run the tape back to be fair to Bryce Huff, but he wasn't really in the picture. And so I've been in games where people have said this stuff about me, and I took it really personal. And I hope they take it personal because they have to win for this defense to go the places they want to go. And I don't know what to say. It's like it's not just because it's the Eagles. It's not just because I watched a bet go up in flames. When you really consider where they were at the end of that game and where they ended up, it's a joke. And Nick Sirianni's got to be better in big spots. I mean, I don't put that Saquon thing on him, but some of the decision making, and we gave Kellen Moore a glazing last week. I know it's unfair to an offense to lose A.J. Brown on a Friday and figure it out, but look around the league. People are overcoming obstacles left and right. Like, this is what people do. They figure out ways to win. Good teams figure out ways to win. You can't look that. I mean, everything was such hard work for that offense, except for getting in gun and giving Saquon the ball under center. And I thought for as long as Jalen looked good towards the end of that game, the reality of it is it was one possession too many. And you can say it's unfair that he got the ball at the end of the game. But if you're telling me this is the guy, and I think he is, I mean, we should be past this point, right? When a guy leads a team to a Super Bowl, I kind of feel like he's minted, you should have a 3-4 year period after that Super Bowl where you're like, this guy's playing high quality ball. I don't have to second guess the guy. I mean, he was an MVP candidate, but the decision making last year late and then carrying into early this year, it just hasn't been good enough. And he would tell you that. He's a competitor. He would tell you, all these guys would tell you the same thing. That's just not good enough. You're trying to win the East.
Jesse Bates were with a pair of plays, though. That interception at the end and then down to the goal line, he stole 4 points off that pass breakup of Devonta Smith.
Jesse Bates was great. Jesse Bates is great. Jesse Bates erased in Arthur Smith's mind last week
There's a reason
of throwing over the middle of the field.
There's a reason they didn't do it.
And Simmons, I thought, made some really good plays. I thought the coverage was tight outside for the most part. Like, I was impressed with the way Atlanta's defense rallied, and they didn't get much pressure either. They didn't. But they got more pressure than Philly, I think. I don't know what the numbers say, but to me it felt like they got a little bit more pressure than Philly. So The rushers didn't come to play tonight. The O-line's, very good. Very good. And the quarterback play, you kind of got to give it to Kirk. I mean, you got to give it to Kirk because ultimately I can't give it to a guy that ends the game with a pick. And it's not a Hail Mary. Like I said, Jake Elliott can hit from there. I watched him kick like a 63-yard field goal against the Giants. Saw it with my own 2 eyes in person. So, man, I don't like, what are people talking about after the game? Is there something I'm missing here other than like win a damn rush? I posted the once again, I am asking for you to win a damn rush at the end of the game. Like I don't know what to say. Dunphy, you know who Dunphy is? A lot of people sharing this viral clip of Jason Kelsey. I mean, it was like there was more hype around this game, honestly, than a banner game.
ESPN dedicated so much time on that broadcast. They thought, to the Eagles, they thought it was going to be cut and dry.
So yeah, they got people out there. There's Kelsey's doing it all, and he should. But he's out there chest bumping Dunphy before the game, who's like the giant Eagles fan. He's the big tatted up Eagles fan. He's got like I-95 on his chest and all the mascots and everything. And Dunphy's the man and everything. But I knew it was going to go bad when Dunphy basically blew his ACL on that chest bump. This video circulating of Dunphy chest bumping Kelsey. And I texted Kelsey during the game and I'm like, did you blow Dunphy's ACL before the game? And he's like, it looked bad. He goes, Dunphy's seeing a chiropractor tomorrow. I said, does Dunphy know what a chiropractor is? Dunphy needs to get in a metal tube and find out if his knee's attached to, the other side of the knee. Like, when that happened, if you know Philly, I felt like that was a bad sign. And they came out flat. Where do they go from here? I don't know. What rushers? What rushers are available? That is going to be one of the biggest questions coming in. Hey, I got an idea. Swallow your fucking pride and trade for Hassan Reddick.
I was about to say, just do a swap back.
Baby, come back. I don't know any of the words. Yeah, who cares? For a ring? Because that can be the difference, right? Like a group that can rush the passer, they don't have to be spectacular. The year we won, nobody had double digits, but we had a guy, his name was Fletcher Cox. So Jalen Carter's got to find a way to turn into a guy, and somebody in the edge group has to step up and become a real difference maker, like win some one-on-ones, pressures, anything. Because they made that offensive line look very good. And hats off to that offensive line. Not for nothing. I think we passed too much of a judgment on them coming off of week 1, playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are otherworldly good. Man, I'd be calling Cleveland like, hey, you guys are trapped, man. Like, this whole Deshaun thing I noticed is fucked. Maybe you want to, I'll give you my firstborn son, send me Myles Garrett. Please, do something, brother. In the words of my 5-year-old son, when he's playing Uno and needs my 8-year-old son to get dad out of the game. Do something, brother. Do something, Howie. Or somebody win a rush. And Vic Fangio's got to have a better day, too. I thought, coming out of the half, I mean, that drive was, again, to Kirk's credit, when it counted, Drake London was big. He delivered the ball, especially over the middle of the field in the first half. And in the second half, they started wearing him out outside the numbers when it counted. But there was no time. There wasn't no time. It was the opposite of no time. It's a never-ending story. Every time Atlanta snapped the ball in shotgun and dropped back to the pass, it was the never-ending fucking story. What was that dog's name?
Falcor.
Aslam's another movie, another fantasy movie. I got a fantasy. I never make that bet. If I could turn back the hands of time.
If I could turn back time.
There was so much I was right about week 2 that this one, though. Got egg on my face, fellas. So Eagles, it's not over. It's not over. You're 1-1, but coming out of week 2, there are certain fires that need to be put out. And now 2 games running, not really getting any pressure. That's one of the fires they need to put out. It's not a personnel fire offensively. Whenever they get A.J. Brown back, they'll look a lot better. But they have to put people away, man.
And this was a shot for them to get a big jump on the Cowboys, right? The Cowboys just got blown out by the Saints. They're 0-2 in the division. They could go up 2 games.
It's crazy, that you don't seize this opportunity. It was
Also,
right
the
there.
49ers lost, right?
Yeah.
So you got
it's just good to win, Reed. These are hard. The NFL, this is a perfect example of wins are hard in the NFL. I don't care what happened last week. I don't care how they looked. It's really hard to win games in the NFL. And I hate to sound like I'm mad at them for making it look hard, but they made it look harder than it should have looked. And they let Atlanta off the hook a little bit. And now for Atlanta, although you don't look anywhere near as polished as that Buccaneers team, you do have time to get Kirk healthy if this is a work through it thing. And you never know. Like maybe this team comes together defensively, looks more like they looked in spots tonight. They also need the pass rush to have an uptick, but that's a really good group they just faced up front. Bijan's electric. I mean, he's just absolutely electric. But the Eagles just didn't put up a fight.
Falcons' best plane ride?
No, because it's so late. It's so late. They're going to sit in traffic getting out of there. Well, no, because they get a police escort. And then the equipment manager's got to load up all the stuff. You sit on the tarmac for 2 hours. The only good thing is Philly to Atlanta's got to be 90 minutes. Guys, there's not much more I can say. Good night.